Hello, my name's Jason Board. How is everybody? I identify as an alcoholic, that a sinner, sober by the grace of God, grateful believer in Jesus Christ, uh, struggle with all kinds of isms. I don't really struggle with drugs and alcohol no more, but I am awful young in my sobriety. I got about 20 months in. In a few days, I'll have 20 months in. Mostly I struggle with lust and cussing and just a superiority complex, and I can't say anger, more aggravated reactions to people when I'm tired and I feel like it's a senseless question. I'll get a little aggravated, or I get aggravated when people just half listen. Uh, but it's not really the getting aggravated or the problem itself. It's how I respond to it, and I understand that. I was uh, I was born in UK hospital. I lived in Lexington till I was like 6 years old. And the second half of first grade, my family moved me to Broadhead, Kentucky. Thank you, Jesus. Best thing they ever done for me. Well, besides birth, obviously. Besides conceive. You know what I mean? But I had a wonderful childhood. I roamed the woods a whole lot. I was adventurous. I like to find old graveyards and old houses out in the middle of the woods. And I was a big tree climber when I was a little boy. You know, like to hang out in old backer patches and old barns. You know what I mean? Climbed a few radio towers. Just old crazy country boy stuff. You know, I was I struggled to fit in grade school, sort of. Uh, I was bullied a little bit by older kids. It didn't have like a lasting effect on me because by the time I made it to middle school, I flourished and became this superstar. Like they let my character stand for me and not the shoes that was on my feet. I remember going to the Family Dollar store and buying this football jacket that looked like a Letterman's jacket out of high school, and wore it proud. You know what I mean? Strutted around in that old jacket, not realizing at the time that everybody in the county, everybody in the county seen that jacket at the Family Dollar store. I didn't know. I didn't have enough sense. I was oblivious to how poor or I was oblivious to my circumstances. I didn't let it get me down. I always smiled, which is probably why everybody still liked the pieces out of me. You know what I mean? Because I wasn't all woe was me. I had a wonderful childhood. I didn't know any better than I was like. I knew that other people had money, but I didn't understand exactly how poor I was. You know what I mean? I was oblivious to it. I had a wonderful childhood. Uh, I was blessed to go to school with some lovely people. My actual grade, my actual class was beautiful people who let me stand for me. You know what I mean? I didn't get real harshly judged. I'm sure there's people had their opinions, but I mean I had my opinions. I still have some opinions. You know what I mean? So it's easy for me to forgive because I didn't hear it anyway. Like nobody was like outwardly mean to me, man. I was blessed to go to school with some lovely people, and it reminds me of an old Pulp Fiction quote. It says, "Just because you have character, or just because you are a character, doesn't mean you have character." And that was me. I was a character. You know what I mean? but I didn't have much character. I didn't have much. I had a lot of resolve and a lot of not quit in me, man. I had a lot of good qualities, but I wanted to rest on my laurels. I wanted to rest on what I had done instead of what I would do. You know what I mean? Or I wasn't very aspirational. I wanted to. I wanted to just ride that gravy train of popularity out through school. You know, and I was raised well. You know, my daddy taught me to work. I actually done some work for the preacher back to this, and done it pretty fastly. I made a good lick in like 4 hours. You know what I mean? And I don't know if he was surprised or what. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. My arrogance is like I bet he was impressed. You know. But he he paid me well. You know. I've got a little bit of an ego problem that stems from that popularity and just being an athlete in school and always being physically gifted, you know what I mean? And I got smart somehow, you know. It was during middle school that this guy, I don't know if y'all know him, but his name's George Renner, and I know he wouldn't care for me dropping his name. He was one of the referees in school, but he used to come way out of his way to pick me up for church. You know what I mean? And and that really was like one of the prep courses in my life for recovery. I just didn't realize it. You know what I mean? Because I know, like, I can't directly quote. I know a lot of stuff that's in the Bible. I know a lot of quotes that's in the Bible. I just can't tell you exactly where they are. I can't tell you Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, whichever. Like, but I can. But I know it's in there because my mentor fact checks me. He's a fact checker. Yeah, he's even got a fact checking app on his phone. He fact checks me. Anyway, George went way out of his way to. I had already been led to Christ and already been baptized, but I wasn't getting fed at this church because it was too big for me and too big time. Like the church I was going to was a lot of people with money, and I didn't fit in. And one of my friends like, go to church with me, Debo. You know what I mean? Because I had fell off from going to this big time church. This big. It's wrong to say big money church. You know what I mean? But that's what it was. And I had fell off. And so I went to this little bitty church that's up behind the hospital. It was actually this church when it used to be a little bitty church up there behind the hospital. But and I've been a member here ever since because I changed my letter to this church. Like when I was a kid, people didn't get baptized but once. They just moved their letter from church to church after that. You know what I mean? Uh, and all the way up to about my sophomore year of high school, I went to church and a lot of Sunday school meetings. In those 4 years, man, I learned, I remembered, and I stored a lot of those Sunday school lessons and a lot of those church sermons in my head more than I remember. I committed them to memory, you know, and like I didn't know that was God prepping me to be to lead people to Christ, to be a foot soldier for recovery. You know what I mean? And so I started doing drugs early. You know what I mean? I still went to church and done drugs and drank and stuff when I was late middle school, early high school. And it really took me to about my junior year to really just fall off from church and just quit going altogether. And that's when I started running around with a different crowd. You know what I mean? By that time, I realized that I wasn't going to be a superstar athlete. Like there was about 5 or 6 guys that I played football with that were just put me to shame, and I couldn't outwill them. Is really my only time in my whole entire life that I just couldn't. I mean, from that moment on, from the time I developed as an athlete on, like every time after that, maybe that was it for like maybe that was a wake up call for me to not let people outwill me. But they were just so immensely talented that that no amount of heart that I could ever have was going to outperform them because they were just immensely talented athletes, and that made me feel less than. So of course I sought a different field to excel in and to be the best at, and obviously that was drugs. And I did excel at drugs, even though I had an idea addiction. You know what I mean? There was this girl, her name was Jennifer Elizabeth, and she was on the Andrew Hager show, and she was talking about the ideal addiction and how the idea addict is living in their mom's basement, getting enabled by their parents, and not have. I made plenty of money. I made plenty of money, and I didn't really have to pay any bills. Like I got to spend all my money, and they would give me pain pills and stuff. They thought they was helping me. Like I was born with a joint bone disease, and they didn't want me to feel pain because my mama had to and still has to go through a lot of pain. So I learned at a very young age how to manipulate them and how to manipulate my mom, especially in about I didn't want to feel any pain. You know what I mean? Which really I didn't feel any pain either. Anyway, I just wanted the drugs. And that's how it is. That's how it was. Uh, but I had the idea addiction. I never got a felony. I graduated high school. Never really was in much trouble. I done 6 days in Lincoln County one time in Lincoln County Jail, and that was for I didn't pay my probation fees. You know what I mean, for like 6 months, and they finally come and got me and let me back out. And of course, I paid my probation fees after that. And then I got caught for a DUI and had to do some weekends. I had to do about 3 or 4 weekends. So about 12 days in jail all my whole life, you know what I mean? And I was smart enough to stay at home. If I was going to consume drugs or consume alcohol, I would stay at home. Like I was that smart to know not to take off to town wild as a buck, you know. And I was very cautious. And I was afforded to be very cautious because I didn't have to hide from my parents to get high or get drunk. They would. It sounds like neglect or irresponsibility on their part, but really it done me a great justice because I wasn't in trouble. I didn't have to sneak off to town with my friends or sneak out with my buddies and consume drugs or alcohol because I could do it right underneath my own home where they knowed I was safe. You know what I mean? They knowed I wasn't going to jail. They knowed I wasn't getting hurt. They knew all that. And it turned out to be like a curse and a blessing because I was enabled to become out of control. At the same time, I was protected not to have any felonies or not even really no drug charges on my record. You know what I mean? I was very, very. Sometimes things are a blessing and a curse all at once, and and that specific thing was one of them. And so about I didn't really realize that how out of control I was because I still worked all through my 20s and done drugs, and I was a speed addict, you know, and until I was like 25 or so, and drugs costed me the first serious relationship I'd ever had, and like it was over. I could accept it. It was over. What I couldn't accept is it was over because of me. You know what I mean? And that's how it all. And to me, that's how it always is with people. I can't go judging everybody else, but to me, it's more the fact that it's over and your fault instead of just being over. Like, I can call it she gave up on me or whatever, but really it was my fault. And that was what's so hard to eat. And that was what's so hard to accept, is that it was me. And from that moment on, I realized that I was a stone cold drug addict. And it wasn't long after that, I was in my cousin's garage. Uh, you're not supposed to mention a specific drugs, like in fear of triggering somebody. But I consumed a specific drug because I could consume drugs, a whole bunch of different drugs, all at once, you know what I mean, and be fine, you know what I mean? Like, I used to, like, early in sobriety, I would go into great detail about that, but I've learned better than that now, because that's not a sign of maturity. That's not a sign of respect. But this one specific drug, I was doing it by itself, and it was a different drug, and it about killed me. Like, I thought everybody there wanted to fight me, like, and their dog about bit me, and I don't remember none of that. I was saying stuff like, God's not real and the law is coming, and I had to pray. Like, I really just flat was going over the waterfall. I was dying, you know what I mean? And I had a conversation with the Lord, you know what I mean? I had a conversation with God, and I had to admit to God at that moment that I doubted Christ. At that moment, until that moment, I'd always believed in God. I'd been saved since I was 12 years old, but I doubted the power of Christ. I doubted, like, somewhere in the back of my head, like, my addiction and sin had gotten so out of control, and my embrace and indulgence of sin had gotten so out of control that I doubted whether Christ is a real person or not. You know what I mean? Whether he really died on the cross for us. And after I admitted that to God, he saved my life. Like, right as I was fixing to go over the waterfall, I was over the peak, you know, on the downslope, and God just grabbed me right by the shirt collar and said, "Not today, young man." Just kidding. But watch yourself, because next time it might be for real. And like, that set another prep course, another sequence of events, another domino effect to getting me sober. You know what I mean? Because I realized that drugs really could kill me. From that moment on, there was a chance I could die. And after that, I had some friends die, and I was looking at their caskets. You know what I mean? Thinking, I don't want everybody crying over my casket. You know what I mean? And talking about how great I was, or what I could have been, or another good one gone, you know. And at the time, it was taking a whole cocktail of drugs to do the trick. Like, it wasn't just speed and just all kinds of different drugs on top of bottles of wine. You know what I mean? Right on top of one another. All kinds of, just a flat mixture of drugs to get me where I wanted to be, or I was not happy, and including with some alcohol on top of it. But my woman got tired of it. Obviously, my wife got tired of it. She was I was not spending. I was paying all my bills. You know what I mean? I was what you call a functioning drug addict, because I would pay my house payment, my insurance, my phone bills, everything. You know what I mean? I was taking care of our essentials. You know what I mean? I just wasn't surprising my wife enough with, like, flowers, and wasn't buying her rings and jewelry and taking her out to eat, and I wasn't pampering my wife. You know what I mean? I wasn't treating her like I was in love with her. I wasn't treating her right. You know what I mean? I was taking care of us. We wasn't starving. Our lights wasn't getting shut off or nothing. Our car wasn't going back. Our house payment was paid. You know what I mean? But I wasn't doing anything for her to make an assertive effort, make a conscious effort of making her feel special in my life. and that had to change. You know what I mean? So she left and took off for 3 days and said she needed better. You know what I mean? And I took it real hard. I was like, well, you've been listening to this one and you've been listening to that one and putting the blame off on everywhere else besides where it needed to be. This guy. You know what I mean? And and she was right. I wasn't consciously making the effort to make her feel special in my life or to even make her opinions be heard. You know what I mean? Or like make her feel like she was part of the decision process, a part of the action. You know what I mean? Part of the team. Everybody just wants to feel like part of something. Everybody wants to feel like part of the team. And we really do have this elite relationship. We really are each other's best friends. You know what I mean? And I was ostracizing her and feeling like all of this was because of me, because I'm also a glory hog. I'm also a glory hog. You know what I mean? And I don't know, like in the past, in my past relationships, they won because I let them win. You know what I mean? And I would tell them I was so arrogant and so out of control with my ego that I would be like, "You win because I let you win," and that was wrong. That was wrong. But like it all had its purpose because I was supposed to meet my wife and treat her different, and everything that I promised that I was going to do with that girl when I was 25 years old, I actually got to fulfill that purpose with my wife now. You know what I mean? So, and all the things that I said I was going to do, and this perfect man that I was going to be, now I'm really in recovery. I'm getting to fulfill that purpose with my wife, and it's just like God makes no mistakes. You know what I mean? Uh, Everything happens for a reason. But so I was 35, and she had left, and I was sleeping on a friend's couch because I couldn't stand to be at home. And at least she waited till after football season, because I'd always told her, it's like, you're gonna leave me, make sure it's after February 5th. You know what I mean? You ain't ruining my Super Bowl. You ain't ruining my Super Bowl or my playoffs. I remember I got into it with my nephew real bad one time, and I was like, they're just trying to ruin my wild card weekend. That's how crazy I was. That's how crazy I was. And self indulged and just totally egocentric, man. Uh, but uh, but I was sitting on my friend's couch, and he had been debating rehab for a while, and and I was like, in my mind, I was like, well, that'd be a good way to get my wife back. Let her know, let her show, let me show her that I'm going to try and change, and I'm going to try and stop and do what's good for me and her. You know what I mean? And and I thought I was going to save all kinds of money. You know what I mean? And I thought I was going to just not have to wind up in a casket. So I went to this AA based rehab, which was beautiful. They loved me until I could love myself, and they was gorgeous people. You know what I mean? We read the AA book like 3 or 4 times while I was there, and I got home, and this was started the evolution because like my first accountability partner, he didn't count that month in rehab. You know what I mean? He was like me. He went to a 28-day rehab too, but he didn't count that month. He started his time when he got out of rehab and the temptation really began. And I understand that, but I count my month. I counted the day I went to detox and the day I did not consume another drug. And God bless, I haven't. In 20, and like the 17th will be 20 months. You know what I mean? 1/17/19. You know, and it was just this beautiful thing. So I get out of rehab, and in rehab, we read along with the AA Big Book. You know what I mean? They put this guy from YouTube on, and you sit and read with him. And I was a note taker. I took notes on everything while I was in rehab, and I still got a lot of them. My crazy cousin come over and ripped up all my stuff and smashed all my drawers because I wouldn't I wouldn't let him steal my dad's guns, you know. But that's neither here nor there. I remember taking all these notes, and I just remember getting home from rehab, and the audio was not on YouTube from like page 164 on in the AA book. You know what I mean? So I was like, believe I'll make the videos. Me. I'll do it. I'll help the world and put them on there. You know what I mean? Which they was all just personal testimonies, and I dug it, man. Like some of them, I'd be crying on there reading them. You know what I mean? Like it was my story on those pages, and that's what a testimony is for. So somebody in the crowd can hear themselves in you, and then you talk about these 12 steps and how they changed your life and how you let I can't, God can, I think I'll let him. You know what I mean? And you're like, that's me up there, and I might want to try that, you know, and that's what it was for me in these personal testimonies, you know, and so I got done with the AA book, which is like 500 pages long, 500 or 600 pages long, and I put all these personal testimonies on a YouTube channel. Well, I got done with that, and the whole time there wasn't very many AAs offered in like AA meetings offered in the county, but there was a whole bunch of this little place called Celebrate Recovery. You know what I mean? So I was like, okay, there. Like I went a few times to figure out that they was 12-step based. You know what I mean? And it was essentially plus or minus a few words. The 12 steps are exactly the same. So I was like, yeah, I can do this. You know what I mean? I can dig this. Like this will suffice. You know what I mean? I was like, that'll do, pig. That'll do. You know what I mean? That like I was like, this will work. This will be a great fill in. And the whole time going to the very few AA meetings that was in this county. But the guy from Celebrate Recovery is like, I've been watching your videos. Here's the leadership guide. There's 8 personal testimonies in there, and you can make videos on them. You know what I mean? And it really changed my life. That because then I just read through the whole book. I was like, well, I might as well start off and read all the lessons too, because by this time I had figured out that there was a ceiling in AA as far as leadership roles. Like AA is big on not being unique, and not that I'm unique or better than anybody else, but there's no ministry in AA. Like the service work in AA is leading the meeting, and I was already doing that, you know what I mean? But that was the ceiling. Like that was as high as it got. There was no place to serve in AA. I mean, you can go to fundraising, you can raise money, and you can start your own charities. That's a big giant step. I'm not saying I won't get there one of these days, but in Celebrate Recovery, there was these leadership classes, and there was this leadership guide, and there was the step studies, you know what I mean? And there was signing people's papers, and there was just that, and the 12th step is the same, you know what I mean? One of them says experience, and one of them says awakening. AA says awakening, and I personally always say awakening, but and that's what I'm doing here today. I'm at the awakening, man. I am on fire to leading people to recovery and leading people to Jesus Christ. And because recovery is just a stepping stone to the Bible. You know, there's a little guy that comes that I haven't seen him in quite a while, but he got a job with the rehab. And I'm sure he's been busy as absolute pieces, and that's why he ain't been able to make it to meetings. Plus, he's probably meeting it every day for 8 hours a day. He probably don't need to come home and go to Celebrate Recovery meeting. I mean, I'm sure he still loves us all, and I'm sure he still appreciates the time he sits with us all. But I've been there, got too busy, and I've pretty much, with this program, with the Celebrate Recovery program, I have gotten really too busy to go to AA. Like, I still have a firm foundation in AA, but I use everything I learned from reading that book 5 times and reading the 12 and 12 and literature. Literature is also a big thing for me. Ever since I've gotten home from rehab, I've had to have something to read, something to fill this big brain with, you know what I mean? And use it. Read them in a book and apply them to your life, you know what I mean? And that's where I'm at, is reading literature and applying it to my life. So I got done with the devotional. I got done with the personal testimonies. And then I was just, for a long time, I was just writing quotes. Like I would read the 12 and 12, and I would write quotes out of it. And then I got this 28-day devotional give to me like a couple months before, and I finally made it to it because I stack up literature. You know what I mean? Because I was like, I'll get to it. You know what I mean? And then I read this Purpose-Driven Life by Rick Warren. You know, the little girl that I read along with on YouTube, she was British. And anyway, and so I would just make quotes out of that book and put them on Facebook and make quotes. Well, people was misrepresenting me, misinterpreting what I thought I was struggling. You know what I mean? Like, you doing okay? You still you still staying on top of that sobriety? You know what I mean? They thought I was struggling, and really I was just trying to help another. You know, and so it evolved. It is this slow baby step process into doing these devotional videos. And like the last 10 days of that 28-day devotional video or 28-day devotional book, I started making these videos. I would read the lesson and make these bullet points and make these 15-minute videos and put them on Facebook Live. You know what I mean? Which has turned into this great big thing. And after I got done with that 10-day devotional, my mentor, you know what I mean? I have my sponsor's in AA, but my mentor is in Celebrate Recovery. And he gave me this 365-day devotional. You know what I mean? Which you got to have for the second half of step studies anyway. So I had to have it anyway. You know what I mean? It wasn't like he was. I mean, he was giving it to me out of the kindness of heart because that's my dude. You know what I mean? But he just knows that when I said I was going to read it, I meant it. You know what I mean? And so now I'm currently making these devotional videos every single morning and sharing it out to all these recovery groups that I'm a member of. And here I am giving my testimony. You know what I mean? And just man, just with my gift of gab, how easy it is to talk to someone about recovery. You know what I mean? And if they're serious and they bite on that hook. You know what I mean? Not go like that and be like, Jesus. You know what I mean? And you get to that third step. A power greater than ourselves can restore us to sanity. And after they can accept that, then I can explain to them what that power greater than ourselves is. A man named Jesus Christ who died on the cross for my sins. The worst thing that I have ever done. The worst thing that you have ever done. Jesus died on the cross. Just picture it in your mind. The worst thing you have ever done. Point blank, period. The worst thing. You might have blocked it out. You might not can remember it all the time. It might have been a long, long time ago. But the worst thing you have ever done, Jesus Christ died on the cross, so you wouldn't have to go to hell for it. You know what I mean? And like it's an icebreaker to me to lead them right into Jesus and lead them right into a sanctification with Jesus. You know what I mean? A discipleship training. The 12 steps are a discipleship training. You know what I mean? And how to really seek and follow God with your entire heart. So here I am today giving my testimony in front of all y'all. From a baby crawl, from a hopeless drug addict, from a victim to a victor. And here I stand. And look out, world, because here comes me with Jesus on my shoulder, trying to just show you a better way, man, a better life, trying to do my daily deed of leading people out of addiction and into recovery, and then slowly Jedi mind tricking them into Jesus Christ. You know what I mean? And just trying to stepping stone people and do my best to help another alcoholic, because I'm on fire for that awakening, and that's what it's all about. That's all I got. My name's Jason Board. I'm an alcoholic. Thank you for letting me share.